I've experienced more extreme weather this year than at any other time in the nearly 6 years I have been living full-time in my RV. I have experienced everything from tornado watches in Wyoming to thunderstorms that and windstorms that knocked down trees and blocked forest roads that made it difficult for me to get out, to heavy winds in the desert, to the derecho, a long stream of thunderstorms that I had to escape in Wisconsin, to just a few nights ago, I was under a tornado watch, and I didn't find out until the next morning that I was just 100 miles from the tornadoes that wreaked devastation across 4 states. So just want to say my heart and my thoughts are with everyone who was affected by that horrible devastation caused by those tornadoes. I mean, it's just awful, the devastation of these places. And it's only going to get worse. You know me, I'm not into fear-mongering, but it's just going to get worse. And those of us who live nomadic lives, who live in vehicles, whether it's an RV or a bus or a car, are going to be at higher risk than any other group. Because number one, we're going to be in unfamiliar places, right? I mean, I grew up, or my adult life was spent in California. I know how to deal with earthquakes. I know where to go. I know what to do. You know, I'm familiar with the community, so I know where to get help. Nomads don't have that. We're at a disadvantage, especially if we're moving a lot. We don't know the surrounding area. We don't know where the safe places are. We don't know where to get help. And in some cases, we don't know what to expect from the weather when we are there. And I'm laying in bed the other night, I'm getting all these alerts on my phone of tornado watch, and I'm like, I don't know what to do if a tornado comes. I wouldn't even know, like, are there warning signs of a tornado? So what I am going to do for you today is I am going to give you the single most comprehensive bad weather, extreme weather safety guide that's out there anywhere. I did a little research. I haven't seen anything that covers every scenario of extreme weather. I am going to tell you how to stay safe in tornadoes, in hurricanes, in extreme thunderstorms, in wind events, in earthquakes, flash floods, extreme hot and cold temperatures. I'm going to give you everything right here in one place that you're going to need to stay safe living in your vehicles and traveling, as conditions in our environment and our global warming, things are only going to get worse. So this is going to be a really important video. Grab a pen and paper or however you take notes and settle in, because I got a lot of great information for you. Before I get into the details about how to prepare and protect yourself from specific extreme weather events, I'm going to talk about some general tips that anybody who lives a nomadic lifestyle, maybe even a static lifestyle, some general safety tips for making sure that you're prepared for just about anything. All right, so these are going to be a baseline guide of things that you need to have and things that you need to be preparing in case of emergency. Okay, number one, you need to make sure you keep your cell phone charged. So if you know a major storm is coming, no matter what it is, it's a good idea to make sure your cell phone's plugged in, make sure it's charged. Best case scenario, you also have a backup battery for it that's also charged. You don't know if you're going to need to be separated from your RV, so don't think that, oh, my battery is almost dead, but I'm going to be able to plug it into my RV cigarette lighter and charge it. You just don't know. So it's better to have a backup battery that's always charged so that no matter what, you can have a cell phone. That might be your key to survival in certain situations, so make sure you have that. The second thing that you're going to need to have is plenty of fresh food and water. You don't know if drinking water supplies are going to be cut off. You don't know if grocery stores are going to be shut down. You know, in the recent case of what happened in Kentucky, entire towns were demolished, so you don't know in a real severe emergency situation, you may not know where your next fresh water or meal or fresh food can come from. So you've got a lot of room here. You know, I've got a 42-gallon water tank. So if a big storm is coming, I might want to make sure my fresh water is filled up and make sure I have plenty of dried food, beans, rice, things like that, maybe even dried vegetables on hand just in case I need them. The third thing is you're gonna want to make sure your gas tank is full. Again, you don't know if gas supplies are gonna be cut off. You don't know if you're gonna need gas to run your generator or to move around or to escape. You don't know how far you might need to escape. So make sure you have a full tank of gas. Number 4 is to have a bug out bag packed and ready to go. Everybody who lives a nomadic life in a vehicle, or even in a sticks and bricks, should have a bug out bag. Everybody should have a bug out bag. Things that you need to survive: food, water, maybe water purification system, maybe some freeze-dried foods, any meds that you're on that you're gonna need, any safety tools that you might need. You know, maybe you wanna take your personal safety devices, whatever those might be. Maybe you want to make sure those are packed away in there. And anything else, especially documents. You want to make sure you have backups of all of your important documents: your driver's license, a passport, your medical history, your vet records if you have a pet. All of your important papers and documents should be in your bug out bag, or at least a copy of them should be in your bug out bag. You can also make sure you have a copy in the cloud, but I wouldn't rely on the cloud. We don't know what's gonna happen, you know, not just weather challenges, but we got cybersecurity threats. We have all kinds of threats. I took a leadership program class and we had a whole day section on cyber security. The guy scared the crap out of me. They have all of our information already. So it's not a good idea to rely on the cloud. That's the bottom line. Make sure you have hard copies of all your important documents, vet records and things, medical prescriptions and things like that, your medical records, whatever else, your bank records, your bank, whatever, okay? So make sure you have a bug out bag with all the important things you're gonna need in a survival situation. This sounds extreme, but things are changing. You know, the weather could be the biggest catastrophe we all face in it, and you need to be able to survive. Number 5, make sure you have a plan for your pets, okay? When you are preparing for worst case scenario, you need to consider your pet. How am I going to be able to take care of them in an emergency situation? Make sure you have food and fresh water for them, any medications they might need. So just don't forget your furry BFFs and your fur babies. Number 6 on my list of general safety tips, things that you should have on hand or be doing now to prepare for any situation, is to know your area. This is especially important for nomads. We're moving all the time. Most of us probably don't take the time to get to know the area that we're in. Where is the nearest shelter? Where is the nearest grocery store even? The nearest gas station? Where can I go in an emergency? Where's the nearest hospital? Where's the nearest vet? Am I gonna get notified in case of a severe emergency? It's a really good idea if you're going to be anywhere for an extended period of time, or especially if you know that a major weather event is coming up. Familiarize yourself with the area, have all the emergency phone numbers on hand, know if there's any shelters, and I'm going to talk more about shelters here in a minute, but it's a good idea just to get to know your area. Number 7. The last thing on my list for general safety tips is to have a good weather alert system in place. Whether that's carrying a transistor radio or having an app on your phone or some other way to be able to get real-time updates on weather, that is absolutely something you need to plan for. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a minute and give you some resources. So those are the 7 general safety tips that I think everybody, whether you live in a house or an RV, should be doing to prepare for any emergency that might come along. So now let's talk about the specific weather events and what you can do to stay safe. So the first emergency situation I'm going to talk about is an earthquake. It's not weather. It doesn't really have anything to do with weather. Being from the San Francisco Bay Area, you know, we all used to say this is earthquake weather, this is earthquake weather, but there really is, according to scientists, no such thing as earthquake weather. But so you can't really do a lot to prepare. It's not like, oh, an earthquake is coming, what should I do? Just follow the general safety tips I gave you in the beginning. Just in case you're in your RV and an earthquake does hit, here is what you need to do, okay? You got a pen and paper? Make sure you're writing this stuff down, it's important. Drop, cover, and hold on. Protect your head and your neck with your arms in case anything does fall, right? If you are parked under power lines, okay, you need to get out of your RV probably, okay? I don't think I would want to be in my RV if things start shaking and there's power lines ahead of me. But if you are getting out of your RV, this was my first mistake and my first major earthquake in 1989. The Loma Prieta was my first earthquake. My office manager and I were both from New York, and we ran outside and stood right below the power muni lines, actually. So if you are going to run out, you need to make sure that you're going to be clear of any power lines. Other than that, really, in an earthquake, all you can do is hold on. I also know from that major earthquake in San Francisco in '89, we lost power in the city. The muni was down because it runs on electricity. There were fires. So again, it's really important to just follow the 7 safety tips that I gave you in the beginning in case your environment, you know, is in crisis. That way you can take care of yourself. I think in some cases, we who live off the grid, and especially those of us who boondock, are in a much better situation to survive, I think, than a lot of other people, as long as we have full tank of gas and food and water on board, especially those of us with solar. Hopefully the sun still shines, right? So that's earthquakes, okay? Number 2, let's talk about heavy winds and what to do in your RV in heavy winds. So winds as low as 10 miles an hour can cause problems when you're driving. So just be aware of that. I've driven in some pretty heavy winds. It's not fun. You know, you've got basically the big, huge sides of your RV are like sails. I mean, the wind will just grab a hold of those and flip you around like a soccer ball. So best case scenario in high wind situations, if you're driving, pull over and don't drive until the wind subsides, or even if you can stay at the night or whatever. If you're parked, RVs can withstand winds up to 75 miles an hour. You know, you guys have been with me a while. I've been in the desert and I've had gusts. I'm pretty sure I've had gusts up to 70, 75 miles an hour, maybe 50, I can't remember. I've had some strong winds. So just know that you're safer parked in your RV in the wind. So everything I read said it takes a perfect storm to flip your rig in a windstorm. So you're pretty safe parked, and I'm going to get to safety in hurricanes and give you more in-depth information about how to secure your RV in high winds once we get to hurricanes, okay? But you're better off parked in high winds. So you may want to avoid it in high winds, and I remember I went through this, I think in Wisconsin. I went through this trying to find a clearing, because you don't want to park under trees, because in heavy winds, trees can fall, branches can fall off. Branches, not a big deal, it'll just cause damage to your RV. You don't want a tree falling on your RV and killing you. So these tips are really more about keeping you safe. You can replace your RV. You can't replace you. So all of the tips that I'm giving you today are about safety first for you, not your RV, okay? There's a lot of other videos about how to keep your RV safe. This is about how to keep you safe. So find a clearing if you can. Don't park around trees. Be aware of your surroundings. You know, if you're really tuned into the weather and you know a storm is coming and you can't move, make sure, look at the health of the trees. Anything that looks dead or it looks like it might be falling over, you want to make sure you stay away from. Do a mental inventory of, you know, if there is a huge storm and trees block the road, am I going to be able to get out? I'm out here all by myself. I haven't seen anyone. If a tree does fall on my RV, and I get smushed, how long is it going to take someone to find me? I think about this, especially in relation to Sadie. I mean, if a tree falls on me, fine, great, whatever, but who's going to take care of Sadie? So you might want to consider not being remote. You might want to consider, if big winds are coming, big storms, you might consider staying in an RV park, or even staying at a truck stop or a Walmart around other people. Safety in numbers sometimes, right? Sometimes there really is safety in numbers. If you're at a Walmart parking lot and a tree falls on you, it's going to be pretty quick before somebody notices that, as opposed to being out in the middle of nowhere by yourself. Okay, so you might want to consider, in heavy winds and tornadoes and hurricanes, you might want to consider being around people. That might be the exception to your rule. And secure everything down inside your RV and on and around your RV. For heavy winds, hurricanes, some of these things are going to overlap. Just make sure, especially in hurricane, just make sure everything is secured inside your RV, just in case, you know, things do really start rocking. You don't want a mason jar to fly and hit you in the head. And everything should be secured around your RV. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to bed. It's been a little stormy on and off, but I'm like, okay, it's calm. You know, I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to leave my flexible solar panel out, only to have to wake up in the middle of the night and go outside and bring it in because the winds picked up. Didn't expect it, but the winds picked up. So you don't want to do that. If a big storm is coming, pull everything in. Pull in your chairs, your solar panels, your tarp, your generator, whatever is out. You don't want to have to be worried about it in the middle of the night, and you certainly don't want to have to go outside or feel compelled to go outside in a dangerous situation to save a thing, okay? So just bring everything in before the storm comes, before the winds come, okay? So number 3, let's talk about thunderstorms. How do we stay safe in our RVs during severe thunderstorms? You're safe inside your RV as long as your RV has a steel or aluminum frame or roof. I know mine has a steel frame. I think most RVs have steel frames, so you're going to be safe. Even if lightning strikes you, you're going to be safe. But what you will want to do is make sure you're unplugged from a power source and make sure all of your electronics are turned off in case you are worried about getting struck by lightning. That way you're not going to fry any electronics, you're not going to fry hopefully your entire electronic system and electrical system. So just make sure you're not connected to any power and all your power is turned off. I have a battery disconnect, just a switch inside my RV. I can just turn everything off. It basically blocks off anything, the battery from charging anything or from powering anything. So that's a good rule if you want to protect your RV. Also, if you are going to be in a situation of heavy thunderstorms, you're gonna, and this is also gonna apply to hurricanes, you're gonna need to be mindful of flash floods, okay? So you don't want to be even in a clearing. You don't want to be on the bank of this nice little mellow stream. You have no idea if it might overflow and pull you down. So just higher ground is going to be better. You're going to need, and mudslides too, right? I mean, you probably don't want to be on a cliff, a precarious cliff, or a cliff up here in case you get heavy rains. You don't want to get buried in a mudslide. You don't want to slide down a mountain. So be really, really careful. And again, the weather is only going to get more extreme. So whatever we have known about weather in our area or in a new area in the past, throw that all away. Everything is going to be more extreme. So you might be on a mountain road, you know, this just wide enough for your rig, and there's, you know, mountain up here and mountain down there, and you're like, oh, you know, it's not going to be that bad. I wouldn't bet on it. Things are just going to get worse. So be careful about mudslides and flash floods under thunderstorm warnings, okay? Or heavy thunderstorms. And of course, the washes in the desert. I have spent 4 or 5 years, winters in the desert now. I've seen plenty of washes that I've been near, and it's like, okay, rain is coming, but you know what? There hasn't been water in this wash for decades, maybe centuries. I mean, this is old. I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't count on it. I saw flooding in Nevada this year, in Pahrump, Nevada. Worse than it had been, water running down the streets. So again, don't take anything for granted, okay? The washes can fill up It can be bone dry 1 minute, and 5 minutes later, it can be gushing water that can be extremely dangerous. So be aware of your surroundings, go to high ground, watch out for floods, watch out for anything that might move, any earth that might move or slide and take you with it, okay? Hail. You know, you also want to be careful about hail. Again, this is more about protecting you than your RV. There's really nothing you can do if you're boondocking and you get golf ball size hail. It's going to cause damage. I was just talking to a patron the other day, and she had hail in Wyoming, and it cracked her vent, her plastic vent covers. I did some research. There's nothing you can do, right? I mean, what are you going to do? Put something up there to protect it? The wind is just gonna blow it away. And you don't wanna do that because the wind starts blowing stuff and you go outside and you get knocked in the head and knocked out. So there's really nothing you can do except stay inside. Heavy hail, the best thing to do is to stay inside because that kind of hail can harm you and your dog, your pet. Let's talk about tornadoes. Again, I was 100 miles from the crazy tornadoes that ripped through 4 states this past weekend, and I was under a tornado watch for 12 hours. It was a long time. I was under a tornado watch. Oh, and in case you don't know, first is a watch and then a warning. So a watch isn't that serious. You get into the warning and then you really need to be hyper vigilant about paying attention to what's going on around you. As I laid in bed that night, the tornado watch was supposed to end at midnight. And I have a phone app that alerts me, and I was trying to go to sleep. I'm like, it's just a watch. I was trying to go to sleep, but my phone kept dinging to tell me, update me on the status of what was going on in my area. I also have it set for thunderstorms, and I could see lightning all around me. But as I laid there not being able to sleep because I kept getting woken up, I decided, hey, okay, will I know if a tornado is coming, A, and B, number 2, what will I do? Should I stay in my art? What should I do? So I started researching, and then I did more research for this video. And the signs, in case you don't know of a tornado, of course, the funnel cloud. Everybody knows about the funnel cloud. And an approaching cloud of debris. So you might look off in the distance, you may not see the tunnel cloud, but maybe you can just see chaos on the horizon and all this debris and trees, or you might see the cloud of debris before you actually see the funnel cloud. I also saw one website that night that I was laying in bed that said it might get really quiet right before the tornado hits. That kind of makes sense because the tornado takes a lot of energy, right? So it might suck up all the energy around it to go into that vortex. But I don't know that that's necessarily the case every time. And there were times I'm like, okay, it got really, really windy, like these big gusts of winds that would rock the RV. And then it would get deathly quiet. And I'm like listening. So that's not a given, but just one thing to maybe pay attention to. And you're probably going to hear a loud roar, something really loud like a freight train. So these are the things that you need to look out for if you're under a tornado warning or a tornado watch. And just because you're only under a watch doesn't mean you're not in danger. There's a watch for a reason. Tornadoes can change directions, they can grow. There's a lot of things that can happen. So you need to be on your toes even under a tornado watch, okay? If you're driving, pull over immediately, but don't pull over. Don't seek shelter under an overpass or a bridge, okay? That's dangerous. You don't want to do that. If you are parked, do not stay in your RV. Your RV is a matchbox to a tornado. I don't care how big it is, whether it's a Class C or a trailer, you need to get out of your RV. If you're under a warning, not a watch, you need to start looking for your closest shelter. That's where the pre-tips that I gave in the beginning come in handy. Know your area. Know where the emergency shelters are in the area. I'm also near a nuclear power plant. So I'm seeing all kinds of nuclear evacuation signs. So it's a really good idea, again, to be aware of your surroundings, know what the plan is if you need to evacuate for whatever the emergency, even if it's a nuclear emergency. But know your area, and if you get under a warning, you need to start being prepared to get to a shelter if you can. But I was reading on the Red Cross website, don't assume the shelter is going to be open, and there's a lot going on because of COVID with the shelters as well. So do your research ahead of time about the shelters in your area, whether they're going to be open, what the COVID protocols are. It's really important to be up to date on all of this. If you're in your RV though, and a shelter is out of the question and you just need to ride it through, here's another thing. A lot of people are gonna be like, why don't you just drive away from it? Just get out of there. I get this all the time with my winter, surviving the winter, putting blankets up in my windows. Why don't you just drive away? Well, you can't always just drive away. You know, not everybody has the gas money. Some people are in their RV on a plot of land, and that's where they've been for months or years, and they can't move. They don't have the gas money to move. Or in my situation the other night, I had some things going on here. I had some personal things going on here. I couldn't leave. I had to stay. I couldn't just jump in my RV and go. So it's not realistic to say, oh, just drive out of it. And, you know, there's also danger in that. Hurricane or tornado, you don't know what direction it's going to go. I think, depending on the situation, in a lot of cases, I'd rather stay put than be on the road. Yeah, depending on the situation. But driving away isn't always an option. Just because we live on wheels does not mean that it's always an option. But if you have to stay put, if you can't go to a shelter, if you can't drive out of the storm, then what you need to do, if a tornado is coming your way, first of all, if you can, you know, get away from it, that would be great. But if you can't, the best place for you to be is flat on the ground in the lowest lying area you can find. So find a ditch, find a low place in the ground, lay flat on your stomach, cover your head, cover your neck, and so that you can keep your vital organs safe from any flying debris, okay? There's actually storm drains near here, and I was laying in bed and I'm like, I'll go in the storm drain, and then I'm like, no, don't go in the storm drain. For one thing, in case there is mass flooding, that would suck. I'd be in there and I'd get washed out. And the other thing is, if flying debris comes and blocks the entrances to those storm drains, I'm trapped, okay? So don't do that. Don't go in storm drains. Ditches are really good. Again, note, you don't want to be under an overpass. You don't want to be under a bridge. So now hurricanes. What do you do if you are in a hurricane or there's a threat of a hurricane while you're in your RV? So hurricane season, write this down. I didn't know this. Again, this is also very fluid right now because of the changing environment, but generally Eastern Pacific hurricane season is May 15th through November 30th. So these might just give you guides for when you travel to certain parts of the country, right? I mean, if you're really, really afraid of extreme weather events, this just might give you a guide of what to avoid. Eastern Pacific hurricane season, May 15th through November 30th. Atlantic. It's noon. Holy cow. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Wow. That scared the crap. I mean, what better timing? That's the other thing. You know, maybe wherever you are in the country, check with the local city or county offices and ask if there are emergency signs. I have been here. I've been here almost a week and I've never heard that. They're testing them. So check with your local area and find out if their emergency sirens are working. That was another thing I totally forgot to mention. In the tornado, I was listening for that. I was in bed all night listening. I'm like, okay, all of these states, all of these areas that are used to extreme weather, they have these sirens that'll go off and alert me if something is coming. You know, you don't want to lay in bed with your headphones on, listening to music to try to drown it out. No, you need to be on your toes. You need to have all your senses firing on all cylinders when there's a chance of an extreme weather event coming. Well, that was crazy. I mean, I was just like, you're kidding me, right? So yeah, you want all your senses to be on high alert, and you know, and okay, I'm a little flustered now because of that. And check with your local area. Just call the county office and say, hey, do you have an emergency siren and is it working? So I can count on that going off in case of a weather emergency, and they'll tell you yes or no. So that's just one more layer of information that'll help you stay safe. So Atlantic hurricane season, June 1st through November 30th, and Central Pacific hurricane season, June 1st through November 30th. So those are some good guidelines. It's not set in stone, so just good to know. Now you're gonna want to pay attention so hopefully you have you're paying attention to the weather, you have alerts on your phone, which I'm gonna get to in a minute. Pay attention to evacuation zones, okay? Tune into your local news, your local weather radar, or whatever it is. If you are in an evacuation zone, that's your time to go, okay? If you are in an RV and you can go and they're saying, okay, this area needs to go, you need to go. Okay, in an RV, it's one thing in a house. It's like, yeah, no, I'm staying with my house. If you're in an RV, you need to go. If you aren't evacuated, if you can't go or whatever, again, you need to get out of your RV. If the hurricane is coming and the high winds are coming, you need to get out of your RV just like you would in a tornado and find shelter the same way you would in a tornado. Oh, the thing I forgot to mention, besides flat ground, you might also want to find a really sturdy cement concrete building and stand against the wall on the opposite side the wind is coming from or the tornado is coming from. Okay, so if the wind is coming this way, you want to stand against the wall here. And if you can find a shelter, there's concrete bathrooms here, but it's brick. I don't know that I would actually go in there in a brick. I don't know about that. But they say also if you can find a building, stay away from outside walls, stay away from windows, stay away from doors. Go to like an interior room on the bottom floor. So if you need to seek shelter and there's an abandoned building or something nearby, go inside it and find safety there. Otherwise, you could park your RV against a really sturdy building too. If you can be on the move and you do want to stay with your RV and you have time, go find a building and park your RV on the wall opposite of the direction of the wind. You could also park it next to a hill. Just whatever might provide a windbreak for you, okay? And also, again, you got to be aware of, are you in an area that might be a risk for flooding? I thought about this, you know, am I going to be at a risk for flooding here? I don't think I would be, but I don't know. And so it's something I wouldn't sleep, something I would keep an eye on. Oh, and I can go to higher ground here, so that's also a good sign. Don't walk, swim, or drive in water and flood waters. Water only 6 inches deep can drag you down. Yep, if you're trying to walk across it, even water that's 6 inches deep can drag you down. And they say water that's only a foot can take your vehicle down. So don't try to go through flood waters. Make sure all your doors and windows and everything in your RV is closed because you don't want rain coming in and causing damage. Park on a level spot if you can. The more level you are, the more stable you're gonna be, the harder it's gonna be for strong winds to pick you up. The other thing is you can anchor your RV. There's different ways. I saw from an insurance website, there's different ways that you can anchor your RV using wheel chocks and things like that. So I'm gonna just put the link below, or maybe I'll put it here, for you to check out how to anchor your RV. But you want your RV to be level and sturdy. Anybody here who uses leveling blocks, you know that when your RV is on leveling blocks, you have a lot of rock, you have a lot of sway. So I would take my RV off the leveling blocks, even if that means you're a little off level. I think you're safer. I don't like the idea of part of my rig being up, more air can get underneath. So I would take it off my leveling blocks as well. Finally, my last extreme weather condition I want to talk to you about is extreme heat and cold. We're going to be seeing more of both in the years to come. Living in an RV, it's a lot harder to escape both. So You can't always drive out of them, but if you can, for extreme heat, go high. The higher in elevation you are, the colder it is. A lot of people spend their summers in Colorado because the high elevations give you cooler weather. Anything at sea level, unless you're on the coast, is going to be hotter. It's another thing. You could also spend time on the Pacific coast, probably the Atlantic coast too. Anything near big, huge, giant bodies of water are going to be a little bit cooler because you're going to get the breeze, especially the oceans. Even in my travels over the summer on the Great Lakes, I got cooler weather on the Great Lakes because you get the lake effect, and it's usually a little bit cooler. For cold, if you're cold and you're in the mountains, you want to go low, or again, go to the coast. For the cold, just you want to go to lower elevations generally. If you're escaping cold, you definitely don't want to go higher, no matter where you are. The higher you go, the colder it's going to be. You're probably going to want to find places to plug in. If you are in very extreme temperatures, even if you can run your generator, you probably only want to run that so long. At least for me, I prefer just to go to an RV park. I can plug in and I don't have to worry about turning my generator on and off. I can plug in, I can run my tank heaters so I don't have to worry about anything freezing. I can run my furnace as much as I want, and trust me, this thing is insulated better than Matilda, but it's still not great. You need to run the heat a lot, even when it gets down to high 30s, 40s at night before I go to bed. I turn the heater on and it's nice and cozy, and 5 minutes later I need to turn it on again. So you might want to just consider plugging in to run both your furnace and the air conditioning if it's too hot outside, okay? So just look for places to plug in. You also might want to just stay in a hotel. If you're in a heat wave or a cold streak, just find a hotel. Go stay in a hotel for a while. Take you and your pet out of the extreme temperatures, and find a place where you're going to be comfortable and cozy and warm, or cold, you know, depending on what time of year it is. And speaking of keeping your pet safe and protecting your pet, I just want to let you know that this video is brought to you by the Waggle Pet Monitor. Waggle Pet Monitor isn't just something that you want to use in the summer, it's also something that you can use in the winter inside your vehicle to make sure when you need to leave your pet alone, he or she is safe from the elements. The Waggle Pet Monitor has built-in 4G wireless so that it can communicate to an app on your phone to tell you in real time what the temperature is, what the humidity is inside your vehicle while your pet is there. Not only does Waggle Pet Monitor keep your pet safe, but it gives you peace of mind knowing that while you're in the store running your errands, or maybe you're sightseeing and you're leaving your beloved fur baby behind, you know that he or she is safe because you've got Waggle Pet Monitor in there alerting you if the temperatures get too hot or too cold. And according to Waggle, several hundred pets have already died this year from extreme cold temperatures. So visit Waggle today to get your pet monitor to make sure your pet stays safe any time of year inside your vehicle. You can get your Waggle Pet Monitor now for 50% off when you use the link in the video description below, and fetch your coupon at checkout by entering Sadie50. So enter Sadie50 at checkout to get 50% off your Waggle Pet Monitor using the link below. Hi, what are you doing? You want to come say hi? She's like, what's going on? We're going to keep you safe. We're going to keep you... Oh, you're all wet. Did you go in the lake? Did you go in the lake? So now let's talk about some of the best resources that you can use to stay safe on the road when you're encountering extreme weather. So the first tool I want to tell you about is the NOAA All Hazards Radio Frequency. 98% of the population is covered under their frequency, and for a full list of their radio stations where you can get real-time, up-to-date weather information wherever you are is weather.gov/NWR. So it's a radio station that broadcasts severe weather alerts for 98% of the people in the country. So go ahead and check it out. I will put a link below. The second one is the app that I've told you about before that I use. It's called CLIME. CLIME, short for climate, NOAA Weather Radar Live. So while I was laying in bed the other night under the tornado watch, this is the app, by the way, that told me I was under tornado watch because it knew my exact location. It has a GPS just like Google, so it knew exactly where I was, and it kept updating me on the tornado status and thunderstorm status. I had my alerts turned on for both, so every time there was a a lightning strike within like 5 miles, it would let me know, and it's got real-time radar so you can see which direction the storm is going. I actually watched the storm. It was green, it was a big oblong. Anyway, I was just on the edge of it. So once again, the same thing with the derecho up in the Midwest. I just missed it. It just skirted by me. Of course, in the Midwest, I actually drove out of the storm. And finally, there's a YouTube channel I want to tell you about that I think was Sherry on Twitter recommended. This guy is amazing. She said she's been watching him for a while, and he has better information than most weather stations or weather channels, and he's called Ryan Hall, y'all, on YouTube.
Have the storm going to the north and east of Humphrey. Let's see if we can get a better view of that. No, that is the literal definition of a radar hole right there. Holy smokes.
He seems to be like an amateur / expert meteorologist, and I've been keeping an eye on him for the past few days. He's really good at predicting where storms are going to go, what storms are going to develop. So check out his YouTube channel. I'll put a link below. And he seems to be a really, really good resource for keeping an eye on any extreme weather that might be coming your way. And he's very thorough, very meticulous about his data, so I think it's an excellent resource that I have subscribed to and I am now going to be using. All right, that was a lot of information. I hope that you took a lot of notes, and I hope that, I'm gonna write a blog, so stay tuned, and I will be putting this also on my website. There you go, so that you can take screenshots or whatever, so that you can also have all this information offline if you need it. So go to my website, CarolynsRVLIFE.com. You can sign up for the newsletter and alerts so that when I do post this, you'll be notified, and you'll also get newsletters and fun updates and things like that, because I am blogging again. And also, for a list of all the sources that I used to research this video, check out the video description. And I hope you found this helpful. So was this helpful? Do #helpful again if you found this extremely helpful, and if it's something that you're going to refer to time and time again in your RV life, maybe even in your regular sticks and bricks life. All right, I appreciate each and every one of you. You all stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. See you soon.